Darkly Dreaming Dexter, Chapter 27. "What do you remember from before?" Harry asked me. "Nothing, Dad, except images tugged at my underbrain, mental pictures, dreams, memories, very clear visions, whatever they were, and they were here. This room? No, impossible. This box could not have been here very long, and I had certainly never been in it before. But the tightness of the space, the cold air flowing from the thumping compressor, the dim light, everything called out to me in a symphony of homecoming. Of course, it had not been this same box, but the pictures were so clear, so similar, so completely almost right, except for... I blinked. An image fluttered behind my eyes. I closed them, and then the insides of a different box jumped back out at me. There were no cartons in this other box, and there were other things over there, over by Mommy. I could see her face there, and she was somehow hiding and peeking up over the things, just showing her face. Her unwinking, unblinking, unmoving face. And I wanted to laugh at first, because Mommy had hidden so well. I could not see the rest of her, just her face. She must have made a hole in the floor. She must be hiding in the hole and peeking up, but why didn't she answer me now that I saw her? Why didn't she even wink? And even when I called her really, really loudly, she didn't answer, didn't move, didn't do anything but look at me. And without Mommy, I was all alone. But no, not quite alone. I turned my head and the memory turned with me. I was with someone else, but it looked like me. But we both looked like me. But what were we doing here in this box? Why wasn't Mommy moving? She should help us. We were sitting in a deep puddle of Mommy should move more, get us out of this blood, I whispered. You remembered, he said behind me. I'm so happy. I opened my eyes, my head pounding hideously. I could almost see the other room superimposed onto this one, and in this room, tiny Dexter sat right there. I could put my feet in the spot, and the other me sat beside me, but he was not me, of course. He was someone, a someone I knew as well as myself, a someone named Biney? I said, hesitantly. The sound was the same, but the name did not seem quite right. He nodded happily. That's what you used to call me. At the time, you had trouble saying Brian. You said Biney. He patted my hand. That's all right. It's nice to have a nickname. He paused, his face smiling, but his eyes locked onto my face. Little brother. I sat down. He sat next to me. What was all I could manage to say? Brother, he replied. Irish twins. You were born only 1 year after me. Our mother was somewhat careless. His face twisted into a hideous, very happy smile. In more ways than one, he said. I tried to swallow. It didn't work. Brian, my brother, went on. I'm just guessing with some of this, he said, but I had a little time on my hands, and when I was encouraged to learn a useful trade, I did. I got very good at finding things with the computer. I found the old police files. Mommy dearest hugging with a very naughty crowd in the import business, just like me. Of course, their product was a little more sensitive. He reached behind him into a carton and pulled out a handful of hats with a springing panther on them. My things are made in Taiwan. Theirs came from Colombia. My best guess is that Mumsy and her friends tried a little independent project with some product that, strictly speaking, did not actually belong to her, and her business associates were unhappy with the spirit of independence and decided to discourage her. He puts the hats carefully back into the carton, and I felt him looking at me, but I could not even turn my head. After a moment, he looked away. They found us here, he said, right here. His hand went to the floor and touched the exact spot where the small other, not me, had been sitting in that long ago other box. 2.5 days later, stuck to the floor in dried blood an inch deep. His voice was grating, horrible. He said that awful word, blood, just the way I would have said it, with contemptuous and utter loathing. According to the police reports, there were several men here, too. Probably 3 or 4. One more of them may well have been our father. Of course, the chainsaw made identification very difficult. But they are very sure that there was only one woman, our dear old mother. But you were 3 years old, I was 4. But, I said, nothing else came out. Fussy with adoption records in this state. But I did find you, little brother. I did. Anyone in my life, of course. I had never before seen a flesh and blood sibling either. Perhaps hand patting was something I should have practiced with my brother, or with Deborah, and I realized, with a small flutter of concern, that I had forgotten all about Deborah. I looked all over at her, some 6 feet away, all neatly wrapped and taped into place. She's fine, my brother said. I didn't want to begin without you. It may seem very strange of a thing for my first coherent question, but I asked him, how did you know I would want to? Which perhaps made it sound as though I truly did want to, and of course I didn't really want to explore Deborah. Certainly not, and yet here was my big brother wanting to play, surely a rare enough opportunity. More than our ties of mutual parent, far more was the fact that he was like me. You couldn't really know, I said, sounding far more uncertain than I would have thought possible. I didn't know, he said, but I thought here was a very good chance. The same thing happened to both of us. His smile broadened and he lifted a forefinger into the air. The traumatic event. You know that term? Have you done any reading on monsters like us? Yes, I said. And Harry, my foster father, but he would never say exactly what had happened. Brian waved a hand around at the interior of the little box. This happened, little brother. The chainsaw, the flying body parts, the blood. With that same fearful emphasis again. 2.5 days of sitting in the stuff. I wonder why or how we survived it all, isn't it? Almost enough to make you believe in God. His eyes glittered, and for some reason or other, Deborah squirmed and made a muffled noise. He ignored her. They thought of you were just... You were too young to recover. You could get over it. I was just literature of agrees. It made me what I am, and I had thought that it might do the same for you. It did. I said exactly the same. Isn't that nice, he said. Family ties. I looked at him, my brother, that alien world. If I had said it aloud, I'm sure I would have stuttered. It would have utterly been impossible to believe, and even more absurd to deny it. He looked like me. We liked the same things. He even had my wretched taste in jokes. I shook my head. Yes, he said. It takes a minute to get used to the idea that there are two of us, doesn't it? Perhaps slightly longer, I said. I don't know if I... Oh dear. Here we are being squeamish. After what happened, 2.5 days of sitting here, Bubba. 2 little boys sitting here for 2.5 days in blood, he said, and I felt sick, dizzy, heart floundering, head hammering. No, I gagged, and I felt his hand on my shoulder. It doesn't matter, he said. What matters is what happens now. What happens? I said. Yes. What happens now? He made a small, strange, snuffling gurgle noise that was surely intended to sound like laughter, but perhaps he had not learned to fake it as well as I had. I think I should say something like, my whole life has been leading up to this. He repeated the same snuffling sound. Of course, neither one of us could manage that with real feeling. After all, we can't actually feel anything, can we? We've both spent our lives playing a part, moving through this world, reciting lines and pretending we belong in a world made for human beings, and never really felt human ourselves. And always, forever, reaching for a way to feel something real. Reaching, little brother, for a moment, just like this. Real, genuine, unfaked feeling. It takes your breath away, doesn't it? And it did. My head was whirling, and I did not dare to close my eyes again for the fear of what might be waiting there for me. And far worse, my brother was right beside me, watching me, demanding that I be myself, be just like him, and to be myself. To be his brother, to be who I was. I had to, what? My eyes turned all by themselves towards Deborah. Yes, he said, and all the cold, happy fury of the dark passenger was in his voice now. I knew you'd figure it out. This time we do it together, he said. I shook my head, but not very convincingly. I can't, I said. You have to, he said, and we were both right. The feather touch on my shoulder again, almost matching the same push from Harry that he could never understand, yet seemed every bit as powerful as my brother's hand, as it lifted me to my feet and pushed me forward. 1 step, 2. Deborah's unblinking eyes were locked onto mine, but with that other presence behind me, I couldn't tell her that I was certainly not going to... Together, he said, one more time. Out with the old, in with the new. Onward, upward, inward. Another half step. Deborah's eyes were yelling at me, but he was beside me now, standing with me, and something gleamed in his hands. 2 somethings. One for all, both for one. Did you ever read The 3 Musketeers? He flipped one knife into the air. It arced into his left hand, and he held it out towards me. The weak dim light grew on the flat of the blade he held up and burned onto me, matched only by the gleam in Brian's eyes. Come on, Dexter, little brother. Take the knife. His teeth shone like the knives. Showtime. Deborah and her tightly wrapped tape made a thrashing sound. I looked up at her, and there was a frantic impatience in her eyes and a growing madness, too. Come on, Dexter! Was I really thinking of doing this to her? Cut her loose and let her go. Let's go home, okay, Dexter? Dexter? Hello, Dexter. It is you, isn't it? And I didn't know. Dexter, Brian said. Of course, I don't mean to influence your decision, but ever since I learned I had a brother, just like me, this is all I could think about. And you feel the same. I can see it in your face. Yes, I said, still not taking my eyes off Deb's very anxious face. But does it have to be her? Why not her? What is she to you? What indeed? My eyes were locked onto Deborah's. She was not actually my sister, not really, not a real relation of any kind, not at all. Of course, I was very fond of her, but what? Why did I hesitate? Of course, the thing was impossible. I knew it was unthinkable, even as I thought it. Not just because it was Deb, although it was, of course, but such a strange thought came into my poor, dismal, battered head, and I could not bat it away. What would Harry say? And so I stood certain, because no matter how much I wanted to begin, I knew what would Harry say. He had already said it. It was unchangeable. It was a Harry truth. Chop up the bad guys, Dexter. Don't chop up your sister. But Harry had never foreseen anything like this. How could he? And he had never imagined when he wrote the Code of Harry that I would be faced with a choice like this, to side with Deborah, or who is my not real sister, or to join my authentic 100% real life living brother in a game that I so very much wanted to play. And Harry could not have conceived that when he set me on my path. Harry had never known that I had a brother who would. But wait a moment. Hold the phone, please. Harry did know. Harry had been there when it happened, hadn't he? And he had kept it to himself, never told me I had a brother. All those lonely, empty years when I thought I was the only me that there was, and he knew I was not, knew, and had not told me. The most important single fact about me, I was not alone, and he had kept it from me. What did I really owe Harry now, after this fantastic betrayal? And more to the immediate point, what did I owe this squirming lump of animal flesh quivering beneath me, this creature masquerading as my sibling? What could I possibly owe her in comparison to my bond with Biney? Brian, my own flesh, my brother, a living replication of my self-same precious DNA. A drop of sweat rolled across Deborah's forehead and onto her eye. She blinked at it frantically, making ugly, squinting faces in an effort to keep her watching me and clearing the sweat out of her eyes at the same time. She really looked somewhat pathetic, helplessly taped and struggling like a dumb animal. A dumb human animal. Not at all like me, like my brother. Not at all clever, clean, no mess, bloodless, razor-sharp moon dancer, snicker-snee Dexter and his very own brother. Well, he said, and I heard impatience, judgment, the beginning of disappointment. I closed my eyes. The room dove around me, got darker, and I could not move. There was Mommy watching me, unblinking. I opened my eyes. My brother stood so close behind me I could feel his breath on my neck. My sister looked up at me as her eyes, wide and unblinking as Mommy's were, would look at me, and she gave me and held her gaze as Mommy had held her with hers. I closed my eyes. Mommy. I opened my eyes. Deborah. I took the knife. There was a small noise and a rush of warm wind came into the cool air of the box. I spun around. LaGuerta stood in the doorway, a nasty little automatic pistol in her hand. I knew you'd try this, she said. I should shoot you both. Maybe all three, she said, glancing at Deborah, then back at me. Ha, she said, looking at the blade in my hand. Sergeant Doak should see this. He was right about you. And she pointed the gun toward me just for a half second. It was still long enough. Brian moved fast, faster than I would have thought possible. Still, LaGuardia got off one shot and Brian stumbled slightly as he slid the blade into LaGuardia's midsection. For a moment they stood like that, and then both of them were on the floor, unmoving. A small pool of blood began to spread across the floor, the mingled blood of both of them, Brian and LaGuardia. It was not deep, it did not spread far, but I shrank away from it, the horrible stuff, with something very near to panic. I only took 2 backward steps, and then I bumped into something that made muffled sounds to match my own panic. Deborah. I ripped the duct tape off her mouth. Jesus Christ, that hurt, she said. For God's sake, let me out of this shit and quit acting like a fucking lunatic. I looked down at Deborah. The tape had left a ring of blood around the outside of her lips. Awful red blood that drove me back behind my eyes and into the yesterday box with Mommy. And she lay there just like Mommy. Just like last time, with the cool air of the box flowing and lifting the hair on the back of my neck and the dark shadows chattering around us. Just exactly like the last time, in the way that she laid there all taped and staring and waiting like some kind of... God damn it, she said, come on, Dex, snap out of it. And yet this time I had a knife, and she was still helpless, and I could change everything now. I could. Dexter, said Mommy. Deborah. Of course, that's what I meant. Not Mommy at all, who had left us here in the same place just like this. Left us in a place where it all began. Now might finally finish. With a burning, absolutely must do it already on its large dark horse and galloping along under the wonderful moon, and 1,000 intimate voices whispering, do it, do it. Do it now. Do it and everything can change. Change the way it should be. Back the way it was. Back with Mommy, someone said. Dexter, come on, said Mommy. Deborah. But the knife was moving. Dexter, for Christ's sakes, cut the shit. It's me, Debbie. I shook my head, and of course it was Deborah, but I could not stop the knife. I know, Deb. I'm really very sorry. The knife crept higher. I could only watch it. I couldn't stop it now for anything. One small spiderweb touch of Harry still whipped at me, demanding that I pay attention and get squared away, but it was so small and weak that the need was big, strong, and stronger than it had ever been before. Because this was everything, the beginning and the end. It lifted me up and out of myself and sent me washing away down the tunnel, the boy and the blood and the last chance to make it right. This would change everything. Would pay back Mommy, would show her what she had done, because Mommy should have saved us, and this time had to be different. Even Deb had to see that. Put the knife down, Dexter. Her voice was a little calmer now. But those other voices were so much louder that I could barely hear her. I tried to put the knife down, really, I did, but I only managed to lower it a few inches. I'm sorry, Deb. I just can't, I said, fighting to speak at all with the rising howl around me of the storm that had built for 25 years. And now, with my brother and me brought together like thunderheads on a dark and moony night. Dexter, said wicked Mommy, who wanted to leave us here alone in the awful cold blood, and the voice of my brother inside hissed out with mine. Bitch! And the knife went all the way back up. A noise came from the floor. LaGuardia? I couldn't tell, and it didn't matter. I had to finish, had to do this, had to let this happen now. Dexter, Debbie said, I'm your sister. You don't want to do this to me. What would Daddy say? And that hurt, I'll admit it, but put the knife down, Dexter. Another sound behind me, and a small gurgle, the knife in my hand went up. Dexter, look out, Deborah said, and I turned. Detective LaGuardia was on one knee, gasping, straining to raise her suddenly very heavy weapon. Up came the barrel, slowly, pointed at my foot, my knee. But did it matter? Because this was going to happen no matter what. And even though I could see LaGuardia's finger tighten on the trigger, the knife was in my hand, and it didn't even slow down. She's going to shoot you, Dex, Deb called, sounding somewhat frantic now, and the gun was pointed at my navel. LaGuardia's face was screwing itself into a frown of tremendous concentration and effort, and she was really going to shoot me. I half turned towards LaGuardia, but my knife was still fighting its way down toward Dexter, said Mommy, Deborah, on the table. But the dark passenger called louder and moved forward, grabbing my hand and guiding the knife down. Dex! You're a good kid, Dex, whispered Harry from behind his feather-hard ghost voice, just enough to twitch the knife so very little up again. I can't help it, I whispered back, so very much growing into the handle of the quivering blade. Choose what or who you kill, he said, with the hard and endless blue of his eyes now watching me from Deborah's same eyes, watching now loud enough to push the knife a full half-inch away. There are plenty of people who deserve it, said Harry so softly above the rising, angry yammer of the stampede inside. The tip of the knife winked and froze in place. The dark passenger could not send it down. Harry could not pull it away, and there we were. Behind me I heard a rasping sound, a heavy thump, and then a moan so very full of emptiness that it crawled across my shoulders like a silk scarf on spider legs. I turned. LaGuardia lay with her gun, hands stretched out, pinned on the floor by Brian's knife, her lowered lip trapped between her teeth and her eyes alive with pain. Brian crouched beside her, watching the fear scamper across her face. He was breathing hard through a dark smile. Shall we clean up, brother? He said. I can't, I said. My brother lurched to his feet and stood in front of me, weaving slightly from side to side. Can't? He said. I don't think I know that word. He pried the knife from my fingers, and I could not stop him. I could not help him. His eyes were on Deborah now. His voice whipped across me and blasted at the phantom hairy fingers on my shoulder. Must, little brother. Absolutely must. No other way. He gasped and bent double for a moment, slowly straightening, slowly raising the knife. Do I have to remind you of the importance of family? No, I said, with both my families, living and dead, crowded around me, clamoring for me to do and not do. And with one last whisper from the hairy blue eyes of my memory, my head began to shake all by itself, and I said it again. No. And this time I meant it. No, I can't. Not Deborah. My brother looked at me. Too bad, he said. I'm so disappointed. And the knife came down.